The next speaker is somebody that I'm going to introduce, and I have something written here by my chief of staff, which I will read, I promise. But first, I need to tell you some personal experience and how dear that person is to my mind and my heart. A little bit of history. I go back to crypto and AI since 2001. I came out of the crypto closet about a couple of years ago at a Blockchain Canada event where I came out and said Alan Lynch is somewhere here. Alan Wunsch, he's over there. It was at his event where I came out and said, I'm coming out of the crypto closet, here I am. A lot of folks are coming out as well and came out after and before, but the whole thing started by reading and learning from the best that they brought this technology to life, to the world, and the way we know it. A lot of people don't give them as much credit as they deserve. They just like hide behind certain name of their blockchain or whatnot. But the technology was built by fabulous folks such as Silvio Micali, who's here today, and he's going to come up and give his speech. So I've learned a lot from Silvio myself, and with my existing company, although I do not promote any, I don't like self-promotion, I don't like to promote companies, but it's important to tell you about a lot of the things that I learned from Silvio and why Silvio is honorary founding member of the Toda.Network Corp. And it's mainly because of the things that we learned from Silvio over the years. And while we were building Toda, he was generous enough to invite us to MIT and work with some of the best cryptographers. And he gave some of his feedback over and over to enhance of what we have today. A big thank you from that perspective, and I will always feel that anything that can come out of Toda is a big thank you to Silvio Micali. But at the same time, Silvio is an author of, in my opinion, the best ledger-based blockchain. So for those that don't know, Toda is ledgerless, and ledgerless and ledger-based blockchains, they're more like Romeo and Juliet in a way, you know. They have a lot of things that they could do together. But today, I'd like to introduce you to, for those that don't know, Silvio Micali. He is MIT professor, author of Algorand, and is the recipient of Turing Award in computer science. So if those that don't know Turing Award is more like if you are an actor, you want to get something desperately, it's called the Oscar Award. So that is the Turing Award for computer science. Every computer scientist would be delighted to get this, and Silvio is the recipient of that award. I believe it's 2013, of the Godel Prize in Theoretical Computer Science and the RSA Prize in Cryptography. Since 1983, okay, 1983. We're not talking about a blockchain that was created yesterday and copied a lot of the Silvio stuff. 1983, he has been on the MIT faculty in Electrical Engineering and Computer Science Department, where he is fourth professor of engineering. Silvio's research interests are cryptography, zero knowledge, pseudo-random generation, secure protocol, and mechanism design. Please help me welcome Silvio Micali.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So let me tell you a little bit about Algorand. So what is Algorand? It's an alternative blockchain. You know what the blockchains are these databases that are shared, and where data is organized in blocks. Everybody can read those blocks. Everybody can write something eventually in one of those blocks, and nobody can tamper in those blocks. It's a secure database that we all share, is the same for all humanity, and you can do a lot of things with it. But this is an alternative one because it's developed from first principles and in a quite different way than the typical Bitcoin or type of ledger. And in particular enables a decentralized governance that is something that is particularly akin to the main theme of this conference. So blockchain, in some sense, is important to have a ground truth if you want to do AI on it, because everybody can choose their own data and derive a quite different conclusion. If there is a common data that is a ground truth, but the decentralized governance is where we can actually put, as I'm trying to explain in these 15 minutes, actually 14 by now, what that means. All right, so the main idea is to agree on a block. All blockchains are equal because they are nested using hash. What they differ is what is the mechanism to generate the next block. And in Nakamoto style block, you have a very slow procedure in which you append a block to another, and there are forks and so on and so forth. The main idea in Algorand is to have actually a Byzantine agreement by the community on what the next block is. And the main assumption is that the majority of the money in the system is known as ends, which is rather different than the traditional assumption that the majority of the mining equipment is in honest ends. So let me show Algorand in action. Block 1 over there is the genesis block. The only thing certain in a blockchain is the first block, because you write it in stone, and that is the description in your system. Aside to it, you find a favor, which is a universal symbol of lightness and effortlessness. And see what happens. As the favor gently falls to the ground, the chain unfolds. Okay? So you may ask, says, well, what about forks? What about proof of work? Guess what? In Algorand, there are no forks nor proof of work. So there are no computationally hard results to solve. What you have is a chain. Every block that appears is there forever, and so no forks can ever occur, and is a very linear process. So how can we achieve this unfolding of a blockchain in such a simple manner? By pure proof of stake. What the hell is pure proof of stake? Well, let me tell you what it is not. Pure proof of stake is not a delegated proof of stake. For those who want a reminder, a delegated proof of stake means, well, we put these 20 people in charge of selecting the next block for this month, and don't worry, next month, different 20 people. A system like this is concentrated, is centralized from the get-go, and actually very dangerous, because 20 people in charge can be DDoS, victims of a denial of service attack, thereby freezing the production of blocks. So to prevent this, people have thought also bonded proof of stake. What is that? Oh, that is not 20 people in charge. It can be 20, 200, 2,000, anybody who is willing to put a bunch of money in the middle of the table where they cannot touch it. Then those willing people are in charge of generating the next block, and their influence is proportional to the money that they put in the middle of the table. You go, wow, this should be better. But is it? So just ask yourself a fundamental question. How much of your disposable income can you afford to segregate in the middle of a table where you cannot touch, is not invested in bonds, in stock, is just there hostage? And the answer is very little. So in a system like this, the danger is that you roll a big red carpet for big thieves with deep pockets who put a disproportionate amount of money on the middle of the table for the sole purpose of controlling the blockchain. So both of these approaches are hidden forms of centralization.